The Galactic Council chamber trembled as if the air itself understood that something world-ending had happened, and was unwilling to carry the weight quietly. Holographic projections flickered above the circular table, burning settlements, crumpled habitats, drifting bodies sealed in cracked emergency suits, evidence of the massacre on Providence 6. Delegates from 27 species shouted over one another in a frenzy of accusations, theories, and frantic attempts to distance themselves from blame. The scent of fear was unmistakable, even among species that claimed to be above such emotions. The arachnid matriarch chittered sharply, her legs clacking like bones thrown onto marble. "This is human exaggeration," she screeched. The Empire's strike was a tactical sweep, nothing more. Across from her, the crystalline luminary ambassador pulsed with distressed light. 32,000 civilians were not tactical debris. "Do not cheapen the dead, matriarch." The chamber doors whispered open, and silence followed as if someone had cut the sound from the universe. General Helena Ward entered with the quiet composure of a woman who had not come to request justice, but to evaluate it like a scientist observing a specimen under glass. Her uniform was impeccably pressed, her boots polished, her face softened by what looked like a friendly, almost apologetic smile. She walked past the arguing delegates, as though they were children caught throwing stones at windows. "Apologies for arriving late," Helena said lightly, setting a slim datapad onto the table. "Traffic jams, you know. Galactic highways really need more lanes." She paused just long enough for the puzzled looks to blossom. "Oh, right. Most of you don't drive." Even the usually unflappable luminary dimmed in confusion. The Dravik war prince, towering and armored in scales the color of old copper, snorted. "Humans use humor when afraid." She trembles behind that smile. Helena's smile widened by a millimeter. "You're adorable," she murmured, "and very wrong." The Empire's representative pushed forward with the swagger of someone who believed that power was the only language worth speaking. Cutrath, a massive insectoid commander with serrated mandibles and a chest like a jagged obsidian boulder, projected a recording of Imperial warships descending on Providence 6. He spoke proudly, as though showing off an award-winning documentary. "The extermination was necessary. Your people were warned repeatedly to leave restricted space. The Empire merely enforced order." Helena clicked the datapad once. The projection vanished. She looked at Cutrath as one might regard a loud, overgrown mosquito that had not yet realized the hand poised above it. "You killed unarmed civilians," she said softly. "Children. Medics. Farmers. That isn't enforcement. That's butchery." Cutrath's mandibles spread in what his species considered a smirk. "Soft mammals break easily. It is nothing personal." "I see," Helena replied. Her voice was almost tender. "Thank you for clarifying." The luminary ambassador flickered with rising dread. General Ward carries a storm behind her eyes. Her emotional spectrum is collapsing into something cold. Helena didn't deny it. She ran her thumb across the datapad, and her expression became a polished, deadly calm. "For centuries, humans have done everything possible to appear cooperative," she said. "We've shaken hands, smiled politely, respected your borders, followed your rules of engagement, your so-called civilized war protocols. We believed in them. We believed in you." She placed her palms on the table and leaned forward slightly, voice dropping into a tone that seemed to resonate in the bones of every being present. "But you killed the last family who believed we were safe here." The chamber dimmed as if the lighting system feared provoking her further. Helena continued, each word deliberate. "Before Providence 6, we tolerated your insults. Your mockery. Your lectures about human inferiority." She raised her eyes and for the first time, something sharper than anger flickered there. "Calculation. But civilizations don't survive by tolerating predators pretending to keep the peace. And humans, we have never been good prey." Cutrath tensed. "Are you threatening the Empire?" "No," Helena replied. "I'm stating a biological truth." Murmurs rippled across the table. The Dravik war prince leaned forward, intrigued. "Humans are unpredictable creatures," he muttered. Too small to dominate, too stubborn to die. You bend like reeds, yet strike like storms. Thank you, Helena said sweetly. We try. She tapped the datapad again. A new hologram appeared, Imperial warships, all marked with faint tracking signatures. Human tracking signatures. The delegates gasped. Several species recoiled in alarm, tentacles curling inward or wings fluttering. Cutrath froze. How? Helena shrugged, almost bashful. You gifted us your signatures when you attacked. We've been studying your fleet for years. Mapping it. Tracing it. You're very predictable, Commander. The matriarch shrieked. This is espionage. No, Helena said, her tone gently patronizing. This is preparation. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Luminary crystals dimmed. Dravik scales rattled nervously. Even Cutrath finally shifted with something resembling unease. Helena clasped her hands together like a teacher concluding a lesson. Let me make this simple. Today, humanity retires from civilized war. You forfeited that privilege when you massacred our civilians. Her voice sharpened. There will be no more polite notices. No more diplomatic stern talks. No more patient negotiations. She straightened. No more civilized war with you bugs. The words struck the room like a meteor. Delegates flinched as though physically hit. The Luminari ambassador whispered. Her aura, she has hidden depths of violence carved beneath her calm. Cutrath slammed a claw onto the table. You dare threaten the Empire? Oh, darling, Helena murmured. I'm not threatening. I am explaining what has already begun. A tremor ran through the floor. Alarms flashed red. Council guards scrambled toward displays as sensor arrays lit up with foreign signatures. Hundreds of them. Long-range scans filled with new contacts. Sleek forms moving with terrifying precision through the edges of multiple star systems. Unidentified vessels entering council space. A guard cried. Helena lifted her chin slightly, the smallest gesture of satisfaction. Ah! They're early. Species across the table panicked. Human ships. Impossible. How did they bypass border defenses? What are you planning? Helena kept her voice calm, almost kind. Movement. Correction. Accountability. Choose whichever word comforts you. Cutrath stepped back from the table. You would start a war with the Empire? You are barely insects compared to us. Helena's smile flickered with something ancient and lethal. You call us insects. Yet insects have a survival instinct you clearly lack. She looked at the hologram of Providence, 6-1 last time. The ruined colony spun slowly, silent and cold. We were civilized, she whispered. But you killed that version of us. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Even the ambient hum of the chamber seemed to pause. Then the sensor hologram expanded again, showing more human ships, many more. Formations that spoke not of retaliation, but of inevitability. The delegates stared at Helena with dawning horror, understanding that the polite general who had walked into the room was not the humanity they knew. She was the humanity that came after. The floor beneath them rumbled a second time, deeper, like the echo of a future breaking open. A warning flashed in crimson letters across every terminal. Impact prediction. 90 seconds. Helena exhaled slowly, a soft sound that somehow drew every eye. You took civilians, she said. Now watch what we take in return. The chamber plunged into terrified silence as the countdown began. Panic rippled across the council chamber as the countdown pulsed in crimson light, each second thudding through the room like the heartbeat of some approaching beast. Delegates shouted conflicting orders, guards scrambled for evacuation paths, and Cutrath watched the expanding field of human fleet signatures with dawning disbelief. Helena Ward remained still at the center of the storm, her posture composed, hands resting lightly behind her back, as if she were admiring a piece of abstract art instead of a looming armada. Explain this, the Luminari ambassador whispered, internal lights fluttering in frantic Morse. Your people approach in silence. You send no transmissions. No diplomatic probes. Not even your famous humor. Helena tilted her head, as if considering a recipe rather than the fate of an empire. Well, she said with gentle precision, humor works best before the lesson, not during it. And what comes next isn't the kind of thing you joke through. The Dravik war prince gave a low growl. You deceive us. Humans cannot mobilize fleets this fast. Your manufacturing output is a fraction of the Empire's. Your logistics are inferior. Your borders too thin. Your ships too few. Helena gave a sympathetic nod. Yes, all very true. On paper. Cutrath jabbed a claw toward the hologram. Yet here your vessels appear inside sacred sectors. This is impossible. Impossible, Helena echoed softly, is usually what people say moments before their worldview explodes. Trust me, we've been there. Ever heard of the Saturn Ice Drillers Union strike of 2189? Everyone said it was impossible to get 6,000 furious engineers to cooperate. Turns out, all it took was a shared enemy and a week without coffee. The Dravik stared blankly. What is coffee? A dangerously motivating beverage, Helena replied. We weaponized it socially long before we weaponized anything physically. It teaches humans that the impossible is just something you do after waking up cranky. The council erupted again, their fear growing heavier, denser, as the hologram updated to show not dozens, but hundreds of human vessels emerging from local shadows. Their sleek hulls moved with chilling synchronicity, like wolves pacing the boundary of a trembling herd. Cutrath spat a burst of static. Human fleets cannot cloak. Helena raised a brow. Correct. But wormhole shading? Atmospheric lensing? Particle skim drift? You underestimated our creativity. Humans excel at solving problems you didn't know existed. That's why you keep losing board games to us. We have never played human games, the matriarch snapped. That, Helena said, is your first mistake. Every game we've ever loved trains us for conflict. Strategy wrapped in fun. Violence disguised as bonding. Do you know what Monopoly teaches? Resource domination. StarCraft? Ruthlessness. Poker? Bluff like your life depends on it. And chess? Patience until patience becomes a weapon. The luminari dimmed further. You speak in metaphors. Please speak plainly. Gladly, Helena said. Our species has been preparing for something like this long before you thought of us as potential threats. Humans survived being prey animals, apex hunters, empire builders, and self-sabotaging innovators who nearly blew ourselves off the map a dozen times. So when the galaxy introduced itself, we smiled. We shook hands. We pretended not to notice your condescension. But the truth is, humans are natural long-term planners. We evolved resilience, deception, adaptation, and worst of all, she leaned forward, voice barely above breath, memory. Cutrath hissed. Providence, 6 deserve to be purged. Then why? Helena murmured. Do you look like someone who's suddenly unsure of their past decisions? Alarms blared again as council screens displayed human battle groups, forming a perimeter around critical transport routes. Their positioning was deliberate, not random, not threatening the council directly, but closing off every escape corridor the Empire might use. The War Prince stepped closer to Helena. If your fleet attacks the Empire unprovoked, the council will sanction humanity. Unprovoked? Helena repeated. You watched our people burn. You listened to their screams. You held meetings to determine whether their lives were politically convenient. Tell me, Prince, what part of provocation confuses you? You do not speak for the entire galaxy, the luminari said, trembling like a candle about to gutter. You cannot decide war alone. I didn't, Helena replied. The Empire did, the moment they murdered those civilians. I'm just acknowledging their choice. Cutrath slammed his mandibles together. Humanity is outmatched. We can destroy every world you hold. Oh, Commander, Helena said, tone dripping with gentle pity. You would have done that already if you could. But you're struggling with something new. We were prepared for you. We studied your doctrine, mapped your blind spots, infiltrated your supply lines, and positioned assets where it would hurt most. You didn't realize it because you never believed humans capable of long-range planning that didn't involve snacks or short-term survival. The Dravik snorted. You still have not explained how you mobilized so many ships without detection. I have, Helena replied lightly. You're just refusing to accept the answer. The hologram zoomed outward, revealing dozens of tiny, faint signatures embedded near key Imperial structures, dormant, silent, inactive until this precise moment. Luminari gasped. Those are human vessels already inside the Empire. Correct, Helena said. They've been there for years. Matriarch screeched. Impossible. Impossible. How did they enter undetected? Helena smiled. Empire border patrols consistently ignore civilian trade vessels. It never occurred to you that we'd retrofit those freighters into collapsible frame war infiltrators. Humans love multitasking. Why build a single-purpose ship when you could build one that moonlights as a cargo hauler and a nightmare? Kut Ratha's voice crackled. You deceived us with peaceful intentions. No, Helena said. We matched your hypocrisy. A tremor rippled through the council floor as human fleets across the hologram simultaneously shifted formation. They were not attacking. Not yet. They were positioning, aligning with eerie precision. The Empire's home front systems lit up with dozens of red warning sigils. The War Prince narrowed his eyes. General, what is your species' endgame? Helena took a slow breath, letting her gaze travel across each terrified delegate. My endgame? I don't have one. Humanity does. We've spent decades listening to your sneers about our fragility, our primitive culture, our humor, our sentimentality. But you made one fatal mistake. She paused. You believed our kindness meant weakness. The chamber fell silent. Helena continued. Providence, 6 wasn't the beginning. It was the final data point in a long, ugly history of imperial arrogance. And humanity has a rule. We don't strike first. But we do finish what others begin. Kut Rath glared. Your vessels hesitate. You fear the Empire's retaliation. Helena's eyes warmed with a softness that was somehow more terrifying than hatred. Commander, they're not hesitating. They're waiting for my signal. A hush spread like mist through the room. The Luminari whispered, General, please reconsider. If you command them to attack, the Empire could collapse entirely. I know, Helena said. Millions will die. I know that too. Then why continue? Helena looked toward the projection of Providence 6, where the ruins glimmered in the artificial holographic light. Her voice dropped to something nearly sacred. Because millions already died. The War Prince's breath rumbled. Then this is revenge. No, Helena answered. Revenge is emotional. This is prevention. She lifted her hand. Kut Rath recoiled. No. Do not. Helena didn't bring her hand down. She simply curled her fingers inward, a gesture so subtle it was almost invisible. The hologram shifted. Human ships lit their drives. And the countdown on every terminal reset to a new number, glowing like an omen. 30 seconds. The chamber froze in collective dread as Helena whispered. You took civilians. Now witness what civilians inspired. The countdown pulsed like a second heartbeat inside the council chamber. Yet Helena Ward appeared immune to the rising panic, her expression shaped by a calm far older than the conflict that surrounded her. Delegates trembled behind shields, guards scrambled in defensive formation, and Kut Rath bared his mandibles in something between fury and fear. Still, Helena stood poised as if she were watching a stage performance rather than the beginning of a galactic unraveling. In her stillness lay an unsettling truth. She had expected this moment long before Providence 6 had burned. Human fleets inside Empire space cannot exist, Kut Rath growled, though the tremor in his lower limbs betrayed the collapse of his certainty. Your species lacks the infrastructure. The numbers. The stealth signatures. Helena lifted one shoulder in a small shrug. Yes, that's what we let you believe. The Dravik War Prince, who had mocked humanity an hour earlier, now watched her with wary fascination. Explain this trap, he demanded, though his tone carried a hint of reluctant admiration. You speak as though you prepared this war before it began. Helena shook her head. Not war. Insurance. The room vibrated with alarm as human ships began to adjust their positions across dozens of systems, aligning with mathematical precision. They didn't look like an invading force. They looked like a mechanism, something engineered with purpose far beyond retaliation. A network of quiet inevitability. Helena placed her fingertips on the edge of the table, her voice soft. When humanity entered the galactic stage, we noticed something immediately. You all saw us as temporary guests. Cute. Reactive. Emotional. Too new to matter. And that was valuable information. You manipulated us, the matriarch hissed. We adapted, Helena corrected. Humans do that. We watch. We learn. Sometimes faster than our neighbors expect. The Luminari ambassador pulsed dim blue. But why lie? Why hide your strength? We didn't, Helena replied. We hid our preparation. There's a difference. Strength is visible. Preparation is invisible until the moment it becomes unavoidable. The hologram shifted to display cargo lanes stretching across the galaxy, innocuous civilian routes, unguarded and overlooked. Tiny vessels marked with human signatures drifted through them like dust particles carried by a cosmic breeze. Dravik eyes widened. These ships, they were present for years. Decades actually, Helena said. Not warships. Not threats. Just ordinary human freighters equipped with a few enhancements. Collapsible frameworks. Encoded signals. Sleep cycle drones. They were harmless unless activated. Cutrath snarled. You hid weapons in our territory. No, Helena answered coolly. We hid awareness in your blind spots. A ripple of confusion traveled through the chamber. Helena continued with a tone so patient, it resembled a teacher explaining fundamentals to stubborn students. You see, humans learned something crucial during our early galactic years. The Empire's doctrine relies on dominance, not vigilance. You trust your size, your firepower, your intimidation. But you do not watch what seems insignificant. You overlook the tiny details. The harmless travelers. The soft species. Her gaze sharpened. We weaponized your arrogance long before Providence 6. The chamber temperature felt colder. Delegates leaned in, their fear shifting into a deep, grudging curiosity. Helena rarely spoke this directly. Her transparency was itself a signal of how far the conflict had escalated. We placed observers along your borders, she said. We tracked your fleet rotations. We learned your response times. Your political fractures. Your nobles' grudges. Your commanders' habits. Humans don't just fight enemies. We study them the way biologists study evolving pathogens. Carefully. Thoroughly. Quietly. Cutrath recoiled as though struck. You compare us to disease? Only in the sense that you spread by consuming everything around you, Helena replied. And because treatment requires understanding the entire system first. The countdown ticked louder, yet Helena's voice stayed controlled. When Providence 6 was targeted, she said, we immediately recognized the pattern. Your empire has done this before, to weaker species with no allies, no reach, no teeth. But humanity is not a weak species. Our civilizations have survived ice ages, plagues, self-made catastrophes, and every mistake an ambitious species can invent. We learned resilience through suffering and strategy through necessity. Her tone grew quieter, but darker. That's why the colony was evacuated days before your attack. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Even Cutrath faltered. Helena nodded. We didn't anticipate which world you'd strike, but we knew you were preparing something. So we created a rotating evacuation protocol for any colony near contested space. Providence 6 wasn't filled with civilians. It was filled with bait. The Dravik prince's jaw dropped. You sacrificed the illusion of a colony. We sacrificed nothing, Helena corrected sharply. We saved 32,000 lives. And we exposed the Empire's intent. Cutwrath's voice cracked into static. You filmed the massacre knowing we would be blamed unjustly. We didn't film it, Helena said quietly. Your ships broadcast it for us. Arrogance loves an audience. The hologram zoomed in on the dormant infiltrators surrounding Imperial worlds. Their tiny silhouettes pulsed with activation codes waiting for Helena's command. The trap wasn't just placement, she said. It was patience. We allowed you to underestimate us. We allowed you to mock us. We allowed you to believe humans were chaotic, sentimental, inefficient. Every insult bought us time. Every dismissal became another blind spot. And every blind spot became another gate. The Luminari whispered. This strategy spans generations. Helena smiled faintly. Humanity plays long games. It's part of our culture. Our myths. Our politics. Our entertainment. A plan doesn't need immediate payoff to be effective. It just needs a moment. The right moment. The countdown hit 15 seconds. Cutwrath tried one last time. You will doom millions. Are humans incapable of mercy? Helena studied him with something that wasn't hatred, but something worse, understanding. We are capable of mercy. But mercy is not unconditional. It requires remorse from the offender. And you, Commander, feel none. The Dravik prince murmured. What is your final objective, General? Helena breathed in once, deeply, letting her shoulders settle with the certainty of someone who had already accepted the weight of history. To end the cycle before it consumes more worlds. The Empire won't stop unless forced to. Humanity won't kneel. That means one outcome. She glanced at the hologram of Providence SIXS ruins one last time. This was the trap we built before the war, she said. A trap made of patience, information, and the assumption that no one would fear humans enough to look closely. Today, that changes. 5 seconds remained. Delegates trembled. Cutwrath shook with rage and terror. Helena raised her hand. Not high, not theatrical, just enough. One truth remains, she whispered. You took civilians. Humans respond by reshaping empires. The final second flashed, and her fingers curled gently inward like the closing of a book no one wanted to read. The moment Helena's fingers closed, the galaxy seemed to inhale sharply. Across dozens of star systems, dormant human infiltrator vessels shed their disguises in a shimmer of unfolding steel, nanofibers snapping into place like wings of predatory metal. Every ship lit with synchronized activation bursts, silent flares that marked the end of the Empire's illusion of safety. The council chamber echoed with alarm sirens, each one shriller than the last, but Helena stood unmoving, her calm a contrast so sharp it frightened even the bravest delegates. Cutwrath lunged forward, mandibles clacking. You barbaric mammal! You dare threaten the Empire's sovereignty? You doom yourselves! His voice shook, not with confidence, but with panic clawing through layers of arrogance. Helena regarded him with a softness that made him recoil. Commander, I am not threatening your sovereignty. I'm acknowledging its end. She tilted her head as sensor displays shifted, showing Imperial defense lines breaking like thin ice. Your empire built its throne on the assumption no one would challenge you. Today, that assumption meets reality. The Dravik war prince stepped closer, gaze fixed on the unfolding devastation as human fleets carved through border fortresses with patient, brutal coordination. Your tactics, he murmured. They are elegant, efficient, almost artistic. War is an art, Helena replied. Its consequence. A tremor ran through the chamber as scouting reports streamed in. Human battle groups sweeping through Imperial shipyards, disabling engines rather than annihilating them, capturing officers rather than vaporizing crews. It wasn't mercy. It was strategy. Humanity wanted information, leverage, and proof. Proof that the Empire could bleed. The Luminari ambassador dimmed to a single pale glow. General Ward, if the Empire collapses too quickly, the void will destabilize surrounding systems. You risk interstellar chaos. Helena sighed. I know. Her voice softened, the humanity beneath the steel emerging. But leaving the Empire intact invites more massacres. Peace with predators is never real peace. Cutrath snarled, though the sound broke midway. We will retaliate. The Empire's core fleets will rise. You cannot destroy an empire in a single night. Helena tapped her datapad. We're not destroying it in a night. We've been dismantling it for years. The hologram zoomed to show maps of Imperial supply routes marked with human sabotage points, power failures, corrupted navigation beacons, quietly compromised fuel depots. War begins long before the first shot, Helena said. Something your empire forgot. The chamber's lighting flickered as long-range scans updated. Imperial core fleets were moving, but not toward the Council. They were retreating, scattering, fracturing under the realization that every fallback plan had been predicted, every escape corridor shadowed by human vessels. The Dravik prince whispered. You cornered them before they realized there was a hunt. Helena nodded. Humans don't chase prey. We shape the field until the prey walks into our hands. Cutrath trembled with unspoken horror. Your species is monstrous. Helena's smile was sorrowful. Accurate. But we didn't choose this shape. You carved it when you targeted civilians. A new hologram flickered to life. The Imperial capital, a sprawling world of obsidian spires and crimson clouds, now encircled by dozens of human warships. Their engines glowed like a constellation of judgment. Defensive batteries fired desperately, but their shots pierced only empty space. Human vessels danced between them with terrifying grace. Helena watched quietly, her eyes reflecting the burning atmosphere of the Empire's pride. I gave them chances, she murmured. Your empire, your commanders, your nobles. So many chances. We begged for peace. We tolerated insults. We endured mockery while we extended hands. She exhaled, weary. But we learned something. Diplomacy means nothing to those who see kindness as vulnerability. Cutrath struck the table. This is annihilation. No, Helena said softly. This is prevention. The capital's shields flickered. Human ships released coordinated EMP bursts, knocking out planetary communications, disabling weapons, paralyzing command centers. It was not an indiscriminate slaughter. It was surgical, deliberate, terrifyingly controlled. Humanity was not trying to burn the Empire from existence. It was stripping it of the ability to harm anyone else. Your species restrains itself, the Luminari observed. Even now. That is, unexpected. Helena didn't look away from the hologram. Unrestrained violence is easy. Precision requires discipline. Her voice dipped lower. But if the Empire forces us to choose between precision and survival, we will choose survival. A ripple of blue lights spread across the hologram. Ground-level Imperial forces surrendering. Entire garrisons kneeling before human landing teams. The Empire was folding from within, its citizens tired of tyranny, its soldiers unwilling to die for rulers who saw them as disposable insects. Cutrath gasped. They betray the Empire? They choose a future, Helena said. One where they aren't ordered to exterminate children. The Dravik prince studied Helena closely. You do not rejoice. Rejoicing over war is the luxury of the foolish, she replied. This is necessary. Not glorious. The chamber door burst open as a council guard rushed in. General Ward, communication from the Imperial Inner Court. Their regent wishes to negotiate immediate surrender. Cutrath collapsed backward, disbelief hollowing his posture. The regent would never kneel to humans. Apparently, Helena said. The regent sees the same hologram we do. The guard continued, voice shaken. They request you specifically to oversee the transition. Helena closed her eyes for a brief heartbeat. The weight of leadership, consequence and grief pressed against her like a physical force. I will speak with them. Then she opened her eyes, steel again. But they must understand the terms will not be gentle. Peace will not be soft. And humanity will not tolerate another Providence 6. The Luminari pulsed brighter, hopeful. Then this war ends? This phase ends, Helena said. The galaxy will take longer. Cutrath stared at her, as though seeing a predator wearing human skin. You are not the weak mammals we mocked. No, Helena agreed. We never were. The hologram of the Imperial capital shifted again, a new structure activating beneath its surface. Something massive. Something ancient. Something the Empire had kept secret even from its council allies. Helena's eyes narrowed. What is that? Cutrath hesitated, then whispered. Our last contingency. A weapon designed only for extinction events. The structure began to hum with gathering energy, its core glowing like the heartbeat of an awakening titan. Human ships repositioned instantly, but the power readings climbed at a pace that defied intervention. The Luminari gasped. General, if it fires, that world will collapse into itself. Millions will die. Helena's expression hardened into a mask of grim inevitability. For the first time, emotion cracked through her composure. Anger, grief, resolve braided into something sharp. Of course, she murmured. The Empire would rather burn than bow. The weapon charged faster. Helena lifted her hand, not to command an attack, but to brace herself for the choice looming ahead. Prepare all ships, she said quietly. If they ignite that core, we'll have one chance to stop it. The hologram blazed white. The chamber shook. And the Empire's final weapon awakened with a roar that swallowed the stars.